I will say 99 out of 100 smashers are so shitty at asking for advice. You guys are so bad at asking for advice. Don't expect a detailed answer with a not detailed question. There's so many smashers that go into so many streams. It's just like, how do I get better at Smash? And it's just like, what do you think the person's going to say? They're going to give you a very general answer.
For most of my time playing Smash, my practice was I play until I can't play anymore.
Which is so unhealthy.
Yeah, like Jesus.
If your goal is to be the best and like you only have like 6 months to play, then of course you're only going to compare yourself to the person that learns really quickly because you're like, dang, they learn this so quickly. As long as you're constantly improving, like you'll slowly catch up over time.
You can become a hero.
Definitely a funny example of like someone asking for like, how do I win right now? The anime music starts playing, they touch your shoulder and they're just like, press up air right here every time and you'll always win. How many hours do you usually train for and how many times do you travel a month?
How many times do you travel a month right now, Gavin?
Oh, that's the person who said that like 500 times in my stream yesterday and I never answered. But to answer your question, I would travel a lot every month because there's like a tournament every week, but it's all dependent on that. If there's no tournament, then I don't travel.
Right, like you could break it down into like summer and winter have the most tournaments, and then like spring and fall slow down a little bit, right?
Yeah. As for practice, right this moment, when I practice, I usually go for 3 hours. And that's mostly because I specifically stream my practice nowadays too. I would maybe stream for another hour or two or practice for another hour or two, but I get way too tired if I'm also streaming. So sometimes I do like 2 hours, but it's usually about 3 when I practice.
I need to
Do I have
find
a
out
bad
what
sleep
time
schedule?
it is.
Pretty much.
Bro, where is my chat broken?
Is it?
I don't see nothing about no bad sleep schedule.
I also woke up 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, I woke up an hour ago.
How many hours do you have overall? My Switch is always on, so I always see people saying, yo, look at Tweek's hours, but I literally leave my Switch on and it's usually just a Smash machine. So I don't know.
How many hours do you have on it? Like actually?
Like a lot, like thousands and thousands. But so I don't know how many hours I actually have. I really don't even care too much. Because like there's so many different setups I've played for like multiple hours on.
I big feel that.
Like
yeah,
I've played
not
in
like an accurate.
I've played in tournaments, I've played on other setups, like, and like in my own setup it's just not worth it because it's probably been on for more hours than I've played, like on Smash.
Right. Like it's not even a true depiction of like how much you practice at home, right? Like you could leave it on for the whole weekend and then like come back or something like.
There's a powered on count and playtime count. Yeah, if I look at the playtime count in the vault section. Oh, okay, that makes sense.
People want to see it. They demand the number right
I'll
now.
look at it. It's probably very high regardless, but it's definitely not right on like the normal Switch or whatever it is.
Yeah. And like another thing too is a lot of people probably don't realize like previous like experiences from previous games carry over certain fundamentals and right? It's not like I feel like a lot of people they're like, what must I do for X result? And I like Void was talking about this a lot with his chat on stream. He's like arguing with someone and like it's just a whole it gets me kind of heated because it's like the focal point of results, right?
Yeah.
It's like I get it, right? You have to want or strive for a certain result. I totally get it, but like I feel like 99% of people, like, that's all they want, and the reason why they want it isn't because I feel like most people want it, like, for the fame. Like, they wanna, like, be known for something, you know what I mean? Like, I wanna be, like, PR'd in my region, or I wanna be, like, top, PG art or whatever, right? And a lot of the times, it's for, like, that fame or recognition. Like, that's what most people's motives are,
I
which is,
think
like, also fine, but, like,
I
yeah,
think
it's
at
just
first it always like is a nice goal and a nice like progress thing to work on, but like whenever like you start with that sort of goal or intention, it all like comes crashing down like at a certain point. And that's the hardest part of all, is that like you don't realize how damaging the mindset could be until it's like 5 years later and you're like, oh damn.
yeah,
That's like
it's
a something that's really difficult, I think. And I guess like the earlier you catch on to like how you're viewing the game and how you like what your mindset is in general, like the easier it is to unlearn a lot of the things that could be negative or damaging.
yeah, and I like bring this up at the start of everything because I feel like tackling this is like one of the first things you should tackle
Yeah,
because
it's like the
if
core of
you
like your the why you play.
exactly, and it's like here's the thing about being only result based, right? The only thing that will satisfy you if you are result based are results. And sometimes the better player loses. Like that's just you know what I mean? It really like there's so many outside factors that come in to like a tournament set, right? Like that player was just more on it that day. This other person has shit going on in his life. Like this person was sick the night before. Like this person um doesn't just got off of a flight from Japan and like didn't get any sleep or and like it gets like plane sick or there's literally like so many factors that happen outside of a tournament set that can affect the results. And if you are only like focused on results, like sometimes your like training and your results aren't going to match up in your brain. Like they're not going to like your expectations and the results you're getting are not going to match up. You're going to get frustrated and you're not looking at the bigger picture of improvement. So it's like you're people a lot of people I just see like them quit because it's like they're getting frustrated but they don't have like the improvement mindset, they have the result mindset, right? So it's like it's really frustrating. Yo, Void with the host.
Yo, boy, thank you for the raid.
Let's go Void.
Hope you're doing well. And I think you make a good point saying like all the outside factors and stuff, because we're talking about someone who like cares about results exclusively, right? So that's like the core right there that we were talking about. Like if your core mindset is something like that, which has a lot of outside factors and a lot of things that aren't outside of your control, it's going to be a lot harder to be happy in general. Because the more stuff you focus on that's in your control, the easier life gets and the more enjoyable life gets, just naturally, right? um and a tournament is like, that's the definition of like things out of your control. When you're going to a tournament, you don't control a single thing that happens. Like you barely control anything at all, right?
Holy
So
shit, yeah, you're right.
there's
That's crazy.
there's like hundreds of people competing or thousands of people competing. Like this is not like what you think it is, you know? So
I've
I
lost
definitely
tournament
think
sets.
you make a good point. What's up?
Yeah, I've lost like tournament sets to like I don't know if you guys like a lot of people even know about this, but there's something called snapback on a controller where a natural controller that's not modded, like to get snapback modded out, like if you like go for a dash grab, right? So I flick right and then I press Z, right, for a dash grab. When I flicked it to the right and it comes back, it'll sometimes snap back. So as it's coming, so I flick right and it's coming back. Sometimes it'll flick just one frame left, just one frame off the flick, right? If you don't like, some people they'll flick their controller and they'll let their thumb go off the controller and it'll snap backwards. If you do this, it's not going to happen, right? But some people do that, especially like in intense moments, like you're just trying to like get the move out, right?
Yeah.
I've lost like game 3 last hit. Someone like lags with an up smash. I go for a dash grab and it's like it snapped back. I pivot grabbed in front of them, and they were like Marth and Smash 4, and they just grabbed it up through me. And I literally like lost that, and it wasn't even me. Like it was like my literal controller, right?
Yeah.
Like there's shit like that happens in tournament. I've had like I hit a sour nair, and then someone like bumps into my chair because like they're going to like report their results, and I like literally miss my A button, and I like up B or some dumb shit like that. Like
Yeah.
that kind of shit like happens, and
And those
like
are
you just gotta hold it.
extremes. There's so many small things too that also add up to a bigger picture too, whether it's in or out of the game. So
Right, and like obviously after that happened, like I got snapback modded. Like there's things, but like as a competitor, you don't know of these things until someone like either that it is experienced that tells you about it, or you experience them yourself, right? You're just like learning and all that. So yeah, I think one of the core things I wanted to like I guess go over is like general mindset. Obviously, like you're not gonna come into a competitive space and just be like, yep, I have a great mindset. Like I'm just
yeah.
here to improve and like blah blah blah. Like it's definitely like you grow, you experience a bunch of stuff, you learn from it. Everyone comes in wanting to win and all that other stuff, but I think knowing of that process going into it like from the rip is really important.
I think a lot of people like ask me like how do I improve my mindset? Like how did you improve your mindset? And like I feel like they look at it a little black and white. I just heard my cat. But honestly, it's not even like that. I it's more of a process than it is whether you have the mindset or not. Like some days are easier than others. Like some days you'll like get upset, or some days you'll like super care about the result, and then other days like your mindset will be like a bit more clear. I think the most important thing is just acknowledging what you're working towards. Like let's continue to go off like the results thing you were talking about, like someone who cares a lot about results. Like unlearning that is going to be really difficult, especially just like how people grow up is like they're taught like that, like winning is like very important and losing is like the worst thing ever, blah blah blah. So like unlearning that is very difficult. And I think like my advice to anyone that's like, struggling with like unlearning something, or trying to improve their mindset, like I would tell them like it's not just like whether you have it or not. It's like if you have a rough day and you're disappointed in yourself, like as long as you're acknowledging that you're working towards like a specific goal or mindset, like that's all you can do for that moment, right? Like everyone thinks like, oh, Tweek, like look at all this stuff you talk about, and like all this mindset you talk about, like how do I have that mindset like you do? And it's like, well, like sometimes I would consider myself having like a mindset like that, but sometimes there's setbacks. Like I think after the fact, you have to at least acknowledge that you're working towards it. So like honestly, lately like practicing has been really hard for me, and like I'm not motivated to play, and like that's just like normal. Like, but I think the most important part is like I said, like acknowledging that you're working towards like a greater purpose. Like it's not like, well, I care too much about winning and losing when I tried not to. Yes, I'm not cut out for this. Like it's just
over for me.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, like all right. One of my greatest inspirations in life, and I think this is something that you can take, because everyone is inspired by someone or something usually.
yeah.
Even if you don't know it, right? Is the late Kobe, rip.
Uh-huh.
Rest in peace, Kobe. But I watch a lot of his videos, just about like his mentality and like motivation and stuff. And he basically said like, if you want to be good at something, like the first thing you should do, which is what Charles has said and what you have also spoke on, is like establish a goal, like a tangible goal, and then reverse engineer it. So like you can't be like, all right, well, I just want to get results. I'm just gonna go do it. You
Yeah.
need to work on like the steps to get results. So like you're saying some days that you don't feel like practicing, you don't feel like you have a good mentality, right? But like you recognize at the end of the day that your result, that you want your end goal to be the best player in the world, master of your craft, et cetera, et cetera. So even on those days that you don't feel like practicing, on those days that you don't feel like putting in the work, you're gonna do it anyway, even if it's just for an hour, because you don't practice that one day, there's somebody else practicing that day, you know?
Yeah,
Like, and
exactly.
it's hard to like think of it in that way, you know what I mean? Like it
And that's the thing,
definitely.
like even yesterday, like I streamed for an hour and like I wouldn't even consider it practice. But off stream, I played Yuzu. Like I like as much as I didn't want to play, like I still did it, you know?
Yeah. And like you got to be able to just take those steps no matter what's going on. Not no matter what, but like really think about like how important your goal is to you as a person, and how you're going to go about achieving it. And it's definitely tough. It's definitely tough. Taking time off can be good. Like it's hard to quantify. It's different for every person. Like how much
Yeah.
time you should take off and shouldn't take off. Like
I think the hard part
can't
about
say that.
like having like a goal, like or like let's say like I play Smash for a living, obviously, and like I think taking time off is amazing. But I think if I'm taking time off because it's like I don't feel like practicing or like I'm like not feeling the game specifically, I think there's like a bigger thing to look at there because like I play this game for a reason. Most of the time it's very fun and enjoyable and it's my career and I'm trying to improve and like blah blah blah. So I think working through the days where you don't want to or something like that can also be great as well
Yeah, it's like
because you might learn a lot about what's going on with yourself or why you haven't been wanting to practice.
Charles. Yeah, but it's like if you like you're like exercising, you're trying to lose weight, right? Like your end goal is that you want to hit like a specific goal weight, a specific body shape, something like
Yeah,
that. On the days you don't feel like exercising, you're not just gonna be like, I'm just gonna take a break from exercising. Like, I mean, you can, but you're just gonna your progress is gonna be halted.
yep,
It's gonna be a lot slower. Like, and sometimes you just gotta be like, I don't feel like doing this, but I'm not gonna get to this weight. I'm not gonna get to my goal if I don't do it. So
exactly.
let's just go get it done. Like, and usually the crazy thing is usually after you do it, you end up feeling way better about it than if you didn't do it. Because the other side is, oh, I didn't feel like doing it. Then you don't do it, and then you're like, dang, I didn't even like go to the gym today, or like I didn't even practice today. Like, what am I really even working toward? Blah blah blah. You know, like so. I feel like the in the now not feeling like doing it is way better. Wait, my words are gone. In the now not feeling like doing it sucks, but once you do it, it feels good.
Uh-huh.
But in the now, when you don't feel like doing it and you don't do it, it feels awful afterwards.
It feels worse.
It feels way worse.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like, and also like there's always the chance that you'll like look at the game in a different way or learn something you wouldn't have like just based off that one day whether you play or not, like because like anything you do like extensively or like as a big hobby or like a big career or like you're super competitive, however you want to word it, like it's not always perfect conditions, it's not always a perfect setting. So like practicing through like all these types of variables and situations, like you can really learn something that you might not have learned if you were like the happiest person alive on that day. Like it's like, you know, like perspective is so important, right? Like but the thing is it could go either way. Like taking a break is really important too, but as long as you acknowledge like what's truly going on, right?
I think you need a little bit of both too. Like,
Yeah.
so when I moved to SoCal, a lot of people would ask me like, okay, how do I improve? Blah blah blah. Right? It's like a very common question for me. Um, and I've just seen so many different types of players, right? And like it, when I talked earlier, it might. I'm not trying to say like, oh, never be salty, always rainbows and butterflies, like go 0-2 every week and just be happy about it because you're improving or whatever, right? Like I'm not trying to say that, but like you need a balance. So I've actually met one player that like didn't get salty enough. So usually the problem is like results based, gets too salty, like, and then it's just like this vortex, right? But I will say this: you need salt to improve. You absolutely need it. If you do not get salty whatsoever, like you just don't care. You don't care enough, and you're not a competitor, like at heart. So it's like you definitely need the salt to like motivate the grind. Like that's usually like those two things go hand in hand. Like you lose to someone that you're just like, I should not be losing to that person, and like you're getting salty, and like that's gonna motivate you to like go home and grind whatever tech you need to do or whatever you need to work on or grind the matchup with someone, right? It's like the core base of it, right? And like that with a mix of like I'm trying to improve, right? So it's like there's a player in SoCal, his name's Eon. This guy is the only person I know in the Smash community that didn't get salty enough. He's the one person. Everyone else in the SoCal community or like just in Smash in general, they get too salty for the most part, right? But Eon wouldn't get salty enough, and like for me, it was always amazing. And he's a really good player for Smash 4 and Ultimate. And I've watched him grow as a player, and like he's the one person, like the one exception that I'm just like, wow, there, I am experiencing someone that like they could be a lot better if they got more salty. But like, and I, I'm good friends with Dion. I've talked to him and stuff, and he like for him like he likes Smash, but he doesn't want it to be like it's not like a super end goal for him, right? Like he's high school slash college. He likes doing it. His friends play it. Like that's just like kind of for him, right? So it's like with like for his goals it made sense the way he acted, but like I'm just letting the chat know that there are situations where like there are players, it might not seem like it, that but they just don't have enough salt, like their mentality is like too improvement based, so to speak. So you need like a really good balance, and everyone's balance is going to be different, right? Like obviously you have like extreme people that get salty, like K9, the Kiras, right? Like and then you have like the Eons, right? Like you have both sides of the spectrum, and you got to find that balance between the two sides to really like find your like strides in improvement. And yeah, I think it's really important. You still need the salt. You definitely need the salt, but like using the salt as motivation is like the biggest key thing to take away from it, in my opinion.
I think that's interesting. I think like another way to look at it is like if you're like let's say like you play casually and you don't care too much about being the greatest player in the world or something, but you're like curious on like how to improve. I guess there could be something subconsciously there that like if you don't like quote unquote like care as much as someone else, that like you might subconsciously might not be doing certain things you would be doing if you did care. So it's not, I don't even know if it's necessarily about like getting salty versus not getting salty. It's just like it's just like a mindset thing, I guess, cuz like because if you want to, I'm sure your subconscious knows what to do to improve. And it's not even like you have to get upset, but it's like it's just a mindset thing. Like I guess that's how I see it. I'm not sure exactly how to word it, but I'm sure you get what I'm trying to say.
Right. It doesn't. I think the word salt comes off as like I am angry I lost. Right. Like
Yeah.
right. So it doesn't have to, like when you lose you don't necessarily have to have a negative emotion, but just know like hey I lost. Why did I lose? Like I
Uh-huh.
can improve from there. Right. Like salt
Rather than
isn't
just like no
the only
thoughts
form
about
of
it, move on.
motivation to improve. That is probably the most common form of motivation to improve, but it's definitely not the only one.
Yeah. Well, like as far as like we've pretty much tackled the core of like how you should start improving, right? You like establish an end goal.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like
And then
this
you
is
work
all
toward.
stuff without touching a controller.
Yeah, we have not even remotely thought about how to execute any of it in game, which
Uh-huh.
is actually probably the easier part than the mental side of things.
Yeah, because the thing about in-game stuff is it's all a lot of it is all like, just raw time.
Yeah,
The more time you have in the game, the more likely it is that you have a general idea of what to do. And it's just, what we're talking about now that is like something worth considering and working on.
yeah, because like humans are made to like recognize patterns. Like,
Yeah,
so
muscle
as
memory.
long as you're playing, yeah, mostly as long as you're playing and you're even slightly aware of what's going on, and even if you're not slightly aware, subconsciously you're just gonna pick up on seeing this thing happen, and you're gonna know what's gonna happen next. Like if like a wolf jumps at you and they're hard drifting in, you probably know they're going to use neutral air forward air if you're at like 10% or something, because you're
Yeah.
going to firm off of it. And once you get hit by it enough and you take 70 from it, you'll be like, maybe I should stop getting hit by that. And that's just something you learn from playing. Like, that has nothing to do with like how you change your mindset to improve through your practice sessions. That's just, oh, I was playing and I got hit by this 17,000 times and now I don't want to get hit by it anymore.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think a lot of people will overthink it. Like I see a lot of people where their mindset is so in the game that they just like think they don't have an answer for all this stuff, and they get so obsessed with um like perfect strategies or like perfect options that they like kind of neglect what we talked about at the start of the stream. That's always an interesting thing to see. Like I have, there has to be a way for me to beat this every time, blah blah blah. Like I see a lot of that. And I
Yeah,
think
I
that
think
at
like
the end of the day that could lead into like what their mindset is too, right? Like they might have this like perfectionist like result mindset, and it leads to them like thinking like everything they need to do needs to be like some sort of unbeatable strategy or answer to every option type of
right.
thing.
Yeah, it's funny when I'm looking at like Kool-Aid's Twitter, and he'll just be like Fundy's Pikachu, and he's just literally like whooping people's ass with Pikachu, but he's not doing like the crazy 0 to 80s or anything. He's just fundamentally like outplaying them, right? And he'll like post like random other characters where he's just like Fundy X character, Fundy Y character, and like I think a big point that he's just trying to like show everyone that is like you don't have to do the crazy optimal stuff. Like obviously you should be slowly trying to work towards that and stuff. And like this is coming from the guy that like that's how I view the game. Like that perfectionist style that Tweek's talking about, like I view the game like that. It depends on like your personality too and like how you want to compete. I like when I competed in like Brawl and Smash 4, I would always want to do all the tech. I would want to be like as optimal as possible. But like there's there's like background behind that, right? Because it's like I feel like a lot of people this is going to be common for them. Like what I'm about to explain is you got to know how to manage your resources, and you have to. So I was a medic for the army, and like one thing I took away from it is like for for medics we would like it was called trending data. I don't know why it stuck with me so much, but like whenever you have a patient, you want to trend their data, which is like look at like their vital signs over the course of a week or a month and be like, okay, where's it going up, where's it going down, blah blah blah. You kind of want to do that with like your practice too. So it's like you can like set like a practice regimen, right, and be like okay, and then you trend the data where it's like how did I feel, like I practiced X amount of hours, X amount of days, right? And you're well, one, you have to be consistent if you want to like be able to trend data, right? And then you do it for a month, and you're like, how did I feel when I went to like these two locals? Like, did I feel like I was improving? Did I feel not so much? Did I feel like I was pushing myself too much? Did I overwork myself, right? And you can tweak those numbers for you specifically because I can't like there's so much people that ask me like, oh, how do I improve? And it's just like I can't like just give you like this printout regiment where it's just like yep, do that and you'll get this. Like everyone's different, even like the mindset and how you study the game, right? Like when I was competing as a player, the reason why I felt like I had to optimize everything is because I was from Hawaii, and Hawaii was a very limited region, right? So my mindset was I'm going to play players that have way more experience than me. Like I play the same 20 people for literal decades, like over a decade, I've been playing the same 10 people in Smash. Like I have no fucking experience over these mainlanders that literally like travel all over the place. They're just gonna have way more experience than me. So when I hit somebody, I have to literally do like double the damage they do, because I'm not gonna win neutral as much as them. Like it's literally like it's fucking impossible. Unless I literally think I am like a god that like I'm going to out like neutral people that are way more experienced than me, right? So it's like I'm thinking realistically here, right? So that's why when me and Void practice and trained, we literally like would DI and like literally figure out every single like combo route and everything, because it's like when we deal damage, we have to do more than them. We just have to, right? So that's how like me and Void, that's how our mentality was because of the resources we had. We were like on a fucking island. It costs like at least $500 to $700 to fly to the for a West Coast. We were broke high schoolers or like just out of college, right? We have no money, so it's like we have to. We our training regimen and our practice was literally like it had all of our resources in mind. That's why we did the things we did, and that's why the style that we have is the way it is. And that's why like me and Void are very like, not saying that other people aren't so studied in the game, but like that was like we didn't have like the resource of like, oh, let's go play the other top players. Like we just have to know the game so much that like when we do fight them, we just know as much as we know about the game, and we like do double the damage they do when we get a hit. That was like, and obviously like Void had a training, I put Void on a training regimen, all that stuff, and like we're able to trend the data based off of his stamina, all that jazz. So it's like having all of that in mind is super important, especially if you're from a smaller region. And even like the mentality of like I got good at teaching Smash because I felt like I was forced to do it. I'm glad I did it and I ended up like super enjoying it, but like I literally had to get the other 20 to 30 people in my community to be better, right? Because if I'm like top 3 rank, I can like grind with the other people, but I need everyone else to be better too. So I almost felt like I was forced in a situation where I have to like teach these people to like beat me so I can improve, right? But if you're in a bigger region or if you have resources to travel, you don't have to worry about that. There's probably a ton of players that are better than you that'll destroy you, right? Because you're not like locked away, so to speak, in this smaller region. So it's like it's super dependent on your situation, but it's all about like resource management, and like being realistic.
I think you made a good point about like adjusting your schedule to like yourself as you do it, because I think a lot of people will ask someone they view as like a professional or someone they look up to and be like, okay, how much do you practice every day? What do you do? Like, what do you eat? Like they just want to
Yeah.
like, I'm exaggerating a bit, but like they want to like copy what your schedule is and like see if it just like automatically helps them. But I think like, whatever you currently do, I think you should do that and like try to acknowledge how you're feeling, what you're doing, and like change it accordingly. Like when I used to practice, honestly for most of my time playing Smash, my practice was I play until I can't play anymore. And like
Which is so unhealthy.
yeah, like I like Jesus.
It's
Like
like crazy.
to the point where like after playing, like I couldn't even like even during the session after a certain point, like I'm not even absorbing any information anymore. Like I'm just doing it because that's just how I viewed it. Like if I'm not practicing, like what else am I supposed to be doing, right? But like nowadays, I didn't even go into like I practice for 3 hours a day right now. Like when I stream, if I'm streaming, maybe sometimes I'll play a little bit more off stream. Usually not though. And it was just something I came up with after trying to notice like how I feel after a certain point. Like okay, like after about 2 or 3 hours of streaming and practicing, I just feel like I'm getting a little burnt out. So let me absorb what I can, reflect on what I can, and just come back to it tomorrow. Rather than just playing until I burn myself out, because I don't know, it was just at the time it was the easiest thing for me to do, because if I had any sort of energy, like it would just like really mess with my head, and I was like, I have to play, like blah blah blah. Like I would just play until I couldn't play anymore. It was just how it worked for me before. But obviously I realized that like after a certain point, I'm not even like absorbing any information, and I'm basically just forcing it. So it's just, instead of just like thinking there's a right way to go about things, try to, while you're practicing or while you're doing something, try to like, pay attention to how you're feeling in like certain key moments, and you might be able to adjust your schedule or routine from there.
I see that someone said, "Do you have any tips for physical improvement? I feel like I'm literally not fast enough to do certain things in this game." Um, that is something that a lot of people believe to be true. Like my reaction time's not good enough. I can't move my hands fast enough. But that's
Fake
all
news.
something. Yeah, that's all something that can be practiced, and you gain it through experience. I don't know what situations you're having troubles reacting to, but maybe start there, or like whatever you're not doing fast enough. But maybe start paying attention to the situations where you aren't moving fast enough, and then keying in on those. And over time, you'll just naturally get better at like whatever. If it's like a million situations, then just take it one common situation at a time, and naturally you'll just get better at doing things faster because you've seen it so much. You already know what to do once you see it.
I think that's a good point. Like acknowledging it in the moment, because not playing fast enough is a very general thing, right? Or like I'm not moving my hands fast enough, because there could be a bunch of reasons as to why you think that's the case. It could be too many situations you're trying to acknowledge at once. It could be a very specific situation. Um, it could be you're literally just telling yourself that and it's not true. It could be a bunch of stuff. So yeah, like consciously acknowledging something in the moment and sacrificing some of your subconscious play could work out in the future. You know what I mean? Like that's another thing about about practice. Sacrificing like the result, because like what's the point of caring so much about the result in the first place, right? Um, in order to improve in a specific area. Um, that could always help as well.
And here, a lot of people think when I say results or when we're talking about results, we're talking solely term results. Wrong.
Yeah.
There are people, and like you subconsciously do this because everybody's got an ego. I don't care if you think you're super humble. Like there are definitely more humble people than others, and more people with bigger egos or whatever. But you are a human. You have an ego, and when you're like playing friendlies, right? Like this is going to be a perfect example. And this is something I think Void particularly is very good at. Like, because in Smash 4, he was kind of a step above the rest when it came to like practicing, but he would practice with everyone else. But the thing that Void was very good is he was good at getting a lot of value from practice that against players that were like worse than him by like a good chunk. Like I wouldn't say like I practiced with him the most in Hawaii. I wasn't like completely dog shit worse than him, but he was definitely like a level above me, right? But he could optimize, and like we would lab out certain situations, like if I was struggling with something, or like he would just do different things. Like if he knew he could edge guard me with certain sequences over and over and it would work, he would stop doing that and like kind of experiment or do other stuff to like and practice other specific setups that might be a little bit more niche, but like because like okay, for example, say I'm playing somebody, right, and I just know that they always dash tag at the end of the day, right? Like when this person's in a pressure situation, and like we're practicing, right, and this is going to be very common because like not all the time are you going to be able to practice someone same level as you, right? More common than not, you're going to probably play someone that's worse than you, if you're just like on the super grind, right? And like let's just say for a fact that if you really wanted to win any game, you could just always up smash out of shield dash tag, always, 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 always. But like you could keep going for that, and you can keep getting the W, or you can try to practice other answers that to dash attack, and you can still punish dash attack, but like try to experiment with other stuff. Like, oh, let me try to jump over his dash attack and then punish with like land hit, like a sour nair into up smash with Fox instead of just up smashing out of shield, which could apply to a situation where the up smash wouldn't kill, but you need another 6% for the kill, right? Like now we're getting like super deep into this, right? Like to the point where it's like, okay, or maybe I fade back, hit him with a back air tech chase, and then go for the up smash after that because I need a little bit more damage. Like kind of like branching off and not doing the same punish that will always win you the game, but trying to like find different punishes for different types of habits or stuff like that, is really big. And if your opponent sees that they're punishing you in various different ways for dash attack, and even telling your opponent that like, hey man, you might not want to dash attack my shield too much, blah 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 blah, and like kind of giving them advice to help them beat you is like really healthy for both of your growths, right? And like, there's some people that like it like I said, it all depends on your situation. If you're in a smaller region, like you might have to go outside of your comfort zone and try to like learn how to teach people a little bit more, right? At least like at a base level, right? Like sometimes you're gonna have to do that kind of stuff. But yeah, just like sacrificing the result is such a big deal. Obviously in tournament you're usually not gonna want to do that. But even like breaking down how you play in certain emotions, certain situations. This is why like going to tournaments a lot is very helpful, because like you might not be playing at Genesis, but it's a tournament, right? It's the closest thing you're gonna get. It's like a local or whatever, right? So it's like, okay, I notice in high pressured situations when my heart's pumping and it's last stock, last hit, game 5, I tend to do this specific habit, or like breaking down your own play, but not only your own play, but your own play in specific situations where it's like, I'm really nervous right now. What do I tend to do? Or like stuff like that. And being able to like identify those moments are super key. And I always love how Tweek always mentions like, never say like, if you're like not good at something, it's not like you're just bad at it and that's it, right? And even like Gavin has mentioned this before about like how people in Smash community like, oh, Tweek has like a bad mentality or whatever, right? And it's just like Gavin didn't like take that and just like, yep, that's it, like it's over for me, right? Like I guess whenever I'm in losers bracket, I'm just out of the tournament. No, like you might not be as good as other players at a specific aspect, like reacting, or you feel like you can't play as fast, but that's not set in stone. Like you can always grind it, you can be better at it. There are so much players, and like even I've heard Tweek say this where he's like, I don't think my reaction's that good. I've heard Mars say his reaction's not good, and Void, like, and I like there's specific scenarios where I'm like, dude, you have to have such good reaction to like react there. But it's like it's a combination of anticipation with experience that can make someone's reaction look godlike. But if they like literally did like a base like reaction test thing, like maybe they don't score as high, right? Like those two things are very different from each other. So like knowing that, and like you can kind of grind that, right? And another thing too, for the player that asked about like, oh, like I just don't feel like I can play fast, there are a lot of top players that do not play fast. The Buzz is a top 5 in multiple Smash games, does not play fast, and there's nothing against him, but like, not just because you don't feel like you can play fast, the only answer is not, oh, I just need to play faster. Maybe you need to get better at controlling the pace of the game, because there's certain characters that can slow other characters down and control the pace. Like Wolf is a great example of a character that controls the pace of neutral because of like certain moves like Nair and Blaster, right? Like that can like slow a game down and be like, all right, chill. Like we're gonna play at this pace, and the Buzz plays characters that also slow the pace down. So you don't always have to, don't tunnel in like there's only one kind of answer to a specific like improvement area. Like there's usually multiple.
Very true. I there's a couple ways to go about like say like we're going with the specific one with like someone who doesn't think they play fast enough. But yeah, that's something I've said on the podcast before. Like if you think you're good or bad at a certain aspect of the game, you don't have to just accept that as you. Like there's so many ways to approach things differently, or learn things or unlearn things. Like for me, like Charles was saying, like I grew up in the Smash community thinking I had a bad mindset because it's like I heard it a lot and a lot of people would say that, and I like accepted it for a while until it's like, okay, like why do I have to adjust my life and the way I play Smash around certain aspects of like my play or me? Like why not just like change things at the core, right? Like, or why not like look at things differently or approach things differently? Like you don't have to be like, I'm an aggressive player, I need to play this character, I need to play this way, I can't play on these stages. Like before we go into like help like improving with like your game or helping you out, like we need to go all the way back to that stuff. Like that's the number one thing here, right? Like there's like, especially with Smash specifically, like there's so many variables like we're always talking about. Like we don't have to view things as like black and white, or like this is right, this is wrong, this character does this and is not good at this and is bad at this, good at this. Like you can do stuff like that to a certain extent, but you don't have to view it as the book of Smash, this is the right and wrong. It's kind of like sports, right? Like some people like let's say there's a book on sports for like form, like let's say it's like tennis or something. It's like do this with your arm, do this with your knees, and you're like if you're playing tennis for the first time in your life, you are not going to give a single fuck about your form going into it, right? You're going to do what's comfortable, what makes sense to you, and you're going to go from there. But like these books or these coaches, they're like some sort of reference, but you have to look to a certain extent like yourself, what's comfortable for you, what you want to do, like, you know, like outside the box, right? Because a lot of sports and a lot of esports have like a general rule of thumb just because of all of the successful players beforehand or stuff like that, you know what I mean? So there's always a different way to approach things too, so don't be afraid to do what you think is comfortable and do what you think is how you want to do things.
Dude, the NBA, sorry, I like talking about sports. I like sports. I like basketball. The NBA is not the same game as it was literally like 10 years ago.
Exactly.
Like, Steph Curry showed up. He was like, yo, I'm just going to shoot from 35 feet out, and y'all have to stop me.
Yep.
And now you look at it, dude, 7 foot people, they just be pulling up from 25. Like,
yeah.
I'm like, yo, you 7 feet. When'd you...
You're not allowed to do that.
Joker play like a point guard. He be bringing the ball up the court. I'm like, what? When did this happen? But like, it all started because this one dude was like, "Yo, I don't feel comfortable like playing what they thought a point guard had to be." Dude just was like, "Yo, I can shoot. I'm gonna shoot."
Yeah.
And now the entire NBA is different. So like, you don't feel like everything that someone says to you is like the way that you have to play the game or the way that you have to do things. It's something that you can look through like introspectively and like think about how it perceives to you and how you can make it work, but it definitely does not have to be the way to play the game. And I know a lot of people, they tend to model their gameplay after like their favorite top player or something like that, but that usually ends up being more harmful than helpful. It's good to like take some key things that they do in situations because they're obviously good and they're working, but like they can't be your model for success, because
at least diving a little deeper couldn't hurt.
Yeah, like their model for success is their model for success, not your model for success. Just try to just take a little bit of it and be like, well, why did that work, you know? And
yeah, exactly. And then by the time you're digging into like why did this work, then you're not even completely modeling it after the top player anymore. Now you're just analyzing the game for yourself. You're not just doing it because you see it. And at that point, can you even say you're copying anyone anymore? If you're truly understanding and you're truly viewing something, like that's what I was trying to say with like the sports comparison. Like a lot of people will just like go to a like if someone's being coached in a sport and like the coach is like saying like you need to do this with your hands and blah blah blah, like a lot of people aren't doing it because it's what's comfortable for them and they truly understand it. They're just literally viewing it as right or wrong. And I feel like a lot of the time a problem will surface at some point because of that experience. And that's basically what I'm getting at. This is also like we were talking about like routines and schedules. This goes into that too, like with people who ask others like how many hours a day do you practice? What do you do? Like sure, like you can take that, but eventually like seeing something for yourself, seeing how you're feeling after a certain point, like all of a sudden you're not even copying someone anymore and you're doing it for your own comfort.
Yeah, I think the main thing, especially like what Pink, just touching on what Pink was saying, like not copying a top player, but like why, right? Like understanding the options being picked. Like, oh, why did, you know, X player back air there while drifting away. Well, it seems like it's pretty safe. Like, and then obviously, like from there, you can like dig into the frame data if you understand that, and like you don't even have to do that. Like that's something that like we're kind of more into, right? Like knowing the frame data, knowing like the answers to very specific scenarios, right? Which will then like craft how you play or whatnot. But there's so much players on the PGR that don't give a flying fuck about frame data. Like you ask Waddy about frame data, Waddy's gonna laugh at you. Like he's like, I don't know any of that stuff. Like I just play off a feel. And like you don't have to know any of that. You don't really, you know what I mean? But like that's just how he wants to like practice and improvement at the game. It's like some people will sit in training mode and work on like very specific routines for like a set amount of time, right? Like Void was a kind of a player like that. When I made his training schedule, it's like okay, like 30 minutes of perfect pivoting every day, and then like after his hand didn't hurt as much, then we bumped it up to an hour, then an hour and a half. It was like we're going to, and again, that was also matched up with resources too, right? Where it's like, okay, we're going to surprise these people with like perfect pivot tech that like not many people want to invest time into. So some people, it's like they can improve at like movement aspects just in training mode, and they're able to apply it from training mode to like friendlies to then tournament. That's usually like the standard structure, right? But some people, it's better for them to practice the movement like just straight off the rip in a game, right? Like I feel like Wadi is someone that wouldn't like go into training mode to practice specific movement routes or whatever, anything like that. He's just going to jump right into playing against another person and kind of like feel out how he wants to move in the matchup and stuff like that, right? So even kind of understanding, trying out different routines and see which will help you, kind of like diving into like dipping your feet into every kind, right? And like it's still good to ask other players like, oh, like how do you practice, so you kind of have a perspective, right? But everyone's situation is different, right? Like you might have a full-time job or part-time job, part-time student, so you might have to adjust according to that too, right? So that's also like a really big deal. And again, just kind of being consistent and trending the data. If you not really feeling it, like you try training mode for a week and it's just you don't really feel like you're improving from it, you don't feel like you can transfer it over to friendlies really well, then maybe just try to cut that out and play people instead and see if that works, right? Better for you, if that feels better for you.
I think something that is I was thinking about like just now that's pretty funny is a lot of people that are like really desperate for some sort of improvement or advice. Whenever they get the advice of like, oh, you have to do this for yourself, you have to do like, I think they get upset because they're looking for like concrete answers, and they think that like a lot of the people giving them advice or coaching is it's like lazy. They're saying like, oh, you got to do this for yourself, or oh, just like work hard, or oh, just play for a few hours. Like I understand how like annoying the vagueness could be, but the game is vague, human beings are vague, and like it's very difficult. Like there's never like one concrete answer to anything in life usually. um so I think I can see why someone would get upset, but at the same time this goes back to what we were talking about. Like they have some sort of mindset where they think this is what they need to improve, like they need some sort of concrete answer. And I hope no one watches this and gets upset like that, right? Because
Yeah.
like what can you do to help someone like that, right?
Just understanding that there's different learning curves.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna like for me, it takes me a little bit. Like I'm not, I don't like super pick up on stuff. Like Void was able to like perfect pivot, like get the perfect pivot stuff combos like in Smash 4 like faster than me. So like I felt like I was like in that training mode phase for it's just for perfect pivots at least for a little longer, stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And like just because someone else picks up on something faster doesn't mean that they're gonna be better than you in the long run, right? Like it just it adjusting to that. I'm not gonna tell like say, when you're in a Smash 4, is Void still going to be doing perfect pivot drills? Like, no. Like, why would he do that? Like, you optimizing your time to like where you are in the learning curve is so important, right? So it's like even you were touching up earlier, like when you're just like some people they're like, dude, I just don't get it. Like, I pay Smash for 14 hours a day, and
Yeah.
I'm like still not PR'd. Like, well, it's like, well, what are you really getting out of the? That dude only plays for like 2 hours a day. Um, Even if you kind of like try to calculate like his learning curves a little bit better, like but you play 14, that's still like an absurd difference, right? Like But like, what are you getting out of your practice? Like, even like, um, when me and Void used to grind a lot, sometimes we would play like for an hour or two, and then we'd take like a little breather break where we just like stop playing for 15 to 20 minutes, maybe even 30 minutes to an hour, and we kind of just chill. We talk about like stuff, you know what I mean? Like, really just intake the information that we just got done, like, kind of discovering from playing, and like really digest it and talk about it. And instead of just like keep playing and playing and playing, and then like after you're done playing for like 10 hours, you're just like brain dead, right? Because you're just so exhausted. And by the time that happens, it's like, you're so physically and mentally exhausted. Like, are you going to even try to digest whatever happened? You're probably just going to go to sleep, or like just be like, oh fuck it, I'm done, right? Like, that's it.
Yeah.
And you're not really like intaking the information. So optimizing your time to get like the maximum amount of value is something, again, that like depends on your learning curve, depends on your personality, right? Like, sometimes I'll sit there for like hours just studying the game, right? Because I just wanted to like know as much as possible and see what other foxes were doing in Smash 4 and stuff like that. um so it's just, it's a lot of gray area, but it's like you're more so, it's like the grind of learning how to learn. Like, that's like what you're trying to grind. That's like the main thing you're trying to do, while at the same time understanding like what's best for you and how to apply it to yourself, right? And also gathering information from like Smash, competitive Smash, and like just entwining it together. That's what I feel like it is.
And you definitely said something really, really important that I don't know if a lot of people picked up on, but you're correct. When just because someone learns faster than you doesn't mean that they will always be better than you. And you have to kind of recognize, like, again, this goes back to your goals, what you're playing for. So like, if your goal is to be the best in like you only have like 6 months to play, then of course you're going to compare yourself to like the person that, like, due to life circumstances or something. Of course you're only going to compare yourself to the person that learns really quickly, because you're like, dang, they learn this so quickly. And normally a lot of times that ends up happening in like close friend groups where like one friend learns much faster and used to beat them before and now you can't beat them anymore. But like, as long as you're constantly improving, like, and your end goal could be years down the road, like, if they decide at some point that they hit or they plateau at some point and they give up on learning and you don't give up on learning, you'll slowly catch up over time. So like, it's really important not to give up so early just because you feel like your friend, it may not be cut out for you because your friend is much better at learning than you are.
Yeah, and once again, this goes back to like what we were talking about at the beginning with like, outside factors and things outside of your control. Like, comparisons are so dangerous, right? Like, you're diving really deep into something that you have no control over. You're diving into literally another person's brain. Like, why? This is not you. Like, you have to really question the core of yourself if you start comparing so much, right? And yeah, Charles mentioned something like a second ago that I wanted to talk about. But yeah, like, a lot of this goes back to what we've been saying.
Hello?
What?
Oh, my bad.
Yeah,
My
no
bad.
problem. I saw something in the chat. I think that reminded me of something I wanted to say.
All right, if you find it again.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Oh, okay. You
So
gotta go.
someone was like, a lot of people talk about like, what do I do? And they always get the answer of just play, and I think it like annoys them. But it goes back to what we were talking about with like human beings recognizing patterns and like muscle memory, like, or like a lot of the time, like raw experience will literally speed you up. And like, you probably won't even notice yourself getting faster. A lot of people that think they don't play fast enough, or like, could be anything specifically, but raw gameplay, you will always learn something, and a lot of time it probably will be subconsciously, which is still fine. Like, if anything, that's like the greatest thing ever that you could improve on. But yeah, if you're playing too long, or you're like consciously thinking about a lot of outside factors like winning and losing, it gets a lot harder, right? And like, let's say with me in the past, like if I played for like 8 hours and I'm like just too tired to even function after, like, even subconsciously, I'm not even getting faster or improving or like acknowledging things anymore because I'm just going through the motions at that point, right? And I think for a lot of people, if they have some sort of mindset that they're having trouble controlling, like they're comparing or winning and losing, or I'm not fast enough, it gets a lot harder to absorb anything the more things you clutter your brain with, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. There's a question I wanted to. So what if? So this is from the loan from the chat. What if you are complete trash at figuring out how to improve optimally? So that is it's just trial and error, right? Because so there's so much gray area because we are not all the same human being. If we were just copies of the same human being, I could give you a pamphlet and be like, boom, right here. This is it. You
Yep.
do this, you do that, boom. We're all the same human beings, but we're not. So you just have to. It's trial and error. You are taught like you're talking to people right now that have been doing this shit for over a decade, and for more than half of it, it didn't even fucking matter. We just did it because we loved it.
Yeah.
And that's why it might like kind of feel foreign to most of you guys in the chat because like maybe Ultimate's your first competitive game, right? For Smash. And it's just like, oh man, like this all just feels so overwhelming and like I feel like I'm just getting very generic advice, right? But we're giving you the tools and like the great thing about this is like the way we're talking about it is like you can apply this to like any game you play or almost anything in life. Like learning how to improve is like that that's been happening to you since birth. Like you've been trying to improve as a human being. Like you have to learn how to walk, talk, like you know what I mean? Like you have to do all that stuff, right? So um it's just it's a lot of it is trial and error and like just getting other people's perspective. That's really what a coach is, right? Like I mean just most of the time it's just you're giving another perspective to the player. Whether they use that perspective or not, it's up to them. But it's like even my dog. Hold up.
Termy.
Okay. So what was I saying? But like it's just it's trial and error and like we've been going through this process and I've like grown as my own like as a player. I've helped other players grow, right? So it's like um it's a lot of trial and error and it's a lot of like getting perspective from other people, right? Like getting advice, getting perspective, like you know what I mean? Like I even like to the players I coach, I'm not the only perspective that they got. Like it's not like their own perspective and their coach's perspective. It's all their close friends, all the people from the region, right? All the other competitive players. They talk to each other at tournaments and stuff. Like gathering all these different perspectives, and going through the experience with trial and error, right? Because even when you get to the point where you're like able to play really well like in friendlies and stuff, one of the hardest transitions for a high player going into a top player is like, can you play like that on the stage when it matters? Like that's like a whole nother fucking ball game, and that's like a whole nother podcast topic. But it's like you just have to go through that trial and error. There's no solidified question. It's literally like it's like I said, it's trending data, right? Like you're trending the data. Like I've been doing this for a month. Like how do I feel? What are the results? Like what are my results? Do I feel like I'm improving? I can literally look at VODs if I record them. Does my movement look better? Does my punish game look better? Like it's a lot of work, yes, but it's trial and error, it's trending data, and like going from there and like being honest with yourself on how you feel about stuff and getting a bunch of other people's perspective, right, on how to improve or what do you think I'm doing wrong and stuff like that. Like having all of those resources is so important.
I saw something really nice from the chat. Well, like, that could lead into something I actually wanted to possibly mention. Someone said like, you guys didn't have the advice when y'all were starting, which is very true. Like for me, like when I would play, I would just super focus on like doing some sort of cool combo or highlight, or it was, for me it was just like all in my control, right? Like I wasn't like looking for like some sort of inspiration or like advice from someone else, because I didn't even think I was going to be doing it for a living or something like that. But at the same time, you got to think like my conscious wasn't really cluttered with a bunch of stuff. Like I have to be playing for X amount of time. These are the best options in the game, blah, blah, blah. Like I have to have this sort of routine. Like I was just playing to master the gameplay as much as I could. In my head, it was to try to do cool things, right? Like what I thought was cool. But in that way, I was improving naturally just from a lot of raw gameplay, and I was improving in order to do cooler and cooler things, or at least what I thought were cooler. And naturally, every aspect of my play was going to get faster or improve because I'm playing against different opponents every time, or there's like more execution into like the stuff I'm doing. And I think that all leads into like how I view the game now, which is I don't like watch the game. I don't look for some sort of specific player's gameplay or like watching something or asking someone for advice on like what I should be doing in the game. It's all like I play, I reflect, I could have done this, I could have done that, blah blah blah. Go back into it next time, right? And it's just like very simple, very pure, and it really helps with, you know, like what we talk about with like patterns and absorbing information with my subconscious, right? Because I'm not like super focused on like I have to do this every time, I have to win this, like I'm gonna lose this if I do that. It becomes so much easier to reflect on the raw gameplay if there isn't some sort of thing cluttering your conscious, like a bunch of crazy mindsets, right?
Yeah, and some players, like Tweek is a player that you can play like a game or a set with Tweek and be like, oh hey, do you remember that one instance? And then it'll be like, oh yeah, blah 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 or whatever, right? And you talk about it. But there's other players that can't do that. You know what I mean? So it's like, I remember I used to grind Smash 4 with K9. I can't do that with K9. K9 can't, like, like the game would be over and like he might remember like the last stock scenario, but like other than that, he literally can't. He's like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
And like to me, that was crazy to me because like I can recall like almost the whole match, right? But it's like the way K9 plays, he plays more like with the like through the sides of his emotions, so he doesn't really like record that information, so to speak, right? So it also just, that's another situation where it depends. Like some players literally have to like look back at the VOD because they cannot remember, because when they're playing they don't like record everything subconsciously, right? So it's like that's another thing that like kind of depends on what kind of person you are, right? And like how you're able to like perceive and remember the game, that like the gameplay you're playing. Like some players literally just have to look at the VOD because they cannot remember what they played.
Yeah, and someone did just ask about VAR review, and that is a good point. Not VAR review is for some players, not for every player, but it also depends on what level of the game you're playing at. Because if you are an entry level player and you're watching your VOD, you're not going to pick up a single thing from it. You're just gonna be like, I got hit here, I got hit there. This is what I was trying to do. When you're at the tippity top of the game, you're watching VODs. You're not even watching. You're studying the opponent. Like at that point, you're way beyond like needing VOD review to improve yourself. You're studying the opponent.
Yeah.
So usually like VOD review is important for like mid level players for the most part, but it's also really hard to do effectively, and that's something that you actually have to be taught usually.
Yeah,
It's
and
like,
the difference
it's coupled
between
game knowledge,
oh,
right?
sorry.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's all I want to say.
Yeah, like the difference between like the new player watching their VOD and the top player watching their VOD is like the number one difference here is just raw time put into the game. For an entry level player, I'd rather, like if I was an entry level player to anything, I'd rather just go back into the fight, right, than like watch my VOD, because at that point there's literally a bunch of very basic critical muscle memory that hasn't been learned, which for me with Smash specifically, there's so many basics that are just like breathing, right? And it's not even because of me being good or bad at something, it's just raw time. And obviously like time works differently for everyone. Like some things will be quicker adapted than others. And for like, even for me, right, there's a bunch of stuff like I probably haven't mastered that are like pretty basic. And that's just like, for VODs, it's like I'd just rather go back into playing. There's just too much to learn that isn't even worth studying at the moment. Like how to like, let's say it's like Street Fighter, because I'm not as experienced with Street Fighter. Like it's just raw execution, right? Like what's the point of watching the VOD if I can't even, if you can't input everything like subconsciously, like what's the point of going into like the VOD review part of improvement, right? But it all depends. For studying your opponent, it could be great too.
Yeah, I think it's like amazing for studying your opponent. I remember was it like, it was like one of the first podcasts I talk about my match at Genesis 3 versus MVD. And I literally cheesed his first stock because he liked to double jump monkey flip at a very specific spot.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, I'm coming from Hawaii, right? So I literally need like every cheesy bullshit I can do. Like that was like my mentality, right? So it's like
Yeah.
I like literally probably don't beat this player like experience versus experience wise neutral. So I'm gonna like literally try to kill him at like 40 or 50. Like, and that, like I got an edge off of that, right? So like stuff like that, like you can definitely pull off, right? Where it's just like, oh dang, I'm like trying to study a specific thing, or like maybe you're frustrated at a certain matchup, right? Where it's just like, dang, I always lose this matchup, but I don't really know why. Like, what am I getting fucked up by so much? And then you can like literally like you can view you playing against that character and see exactly how you're getting shit on, or what is the issue. Like, oh, I have a really hard time killing them. Okay, now look up a top player that played against that character. How does he kill him? Like you're like getting very like specific scenarios. And I'm actually going to segue this into asking for advice. Now, I will say 99 out of 100 smashers are so fucking shitty at asking for advice. You guys are so bad at asking for advice. Do not, I swear, do not, like, don't expect a detailed answer with a not detailed question. Like, there's so many smashers that go into so many streams. It's just like, how do I get better at Smash? And it's just like, you just asked like the most generalistic question. Like, what do you think the person's going to say? They're going to give you a very general answer. Play the game a lot. Are they wrong? No, they're not wrong. They're absolutely right. So it's like, don't expect like advice. Like, I feel like every time a smasher asks for advice from a top player or like someone that's very knowledgeable of the game or whatever, right? This is what they expect. I'm gonna ask Tweek for advice, dude. He's gonna say some shit that's like totally fucking inspiring, blows my mind. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna like unlock some inner chi shit and like just be better at the game, dude. He's gonna like open up my mind to the world of competitive Smash, and it's gonna be the most insightful moment of my fucking life. No, it's not gonna fucking happen, dude. It is not gonna, and especially the chances of it happening are way lower when you ask a very general question. Like if you go up to Tweek and you ask him, "Hey Tweek, I have a very hard time dealing with Joker as Diddy, and it's like I just don't know how to contest gun. Like he like just jumps up in the fucking air and he just starts down gunning. Like what do you do in that specific situation? Like how do you handle that?" I'm pretty sure Tweek can give you a very specific answer to that, and like
Yeah.
that's gonna be very insightful because it was a very specific thing with specific characters and a specific situation, right? So like knowing how to ask for advice is so important, and the way like the more details are in the question the better. Do not ask like, how do I get better with Diddy Kong? Like, well, okay, we got a character,
I don't even know that
you
right
want to
now.
get better,
Oh,
but like
Yo,
there's so much aspects.
cheese, thank you for the 5 gifted. What is up?
You can become a hero. You are the chosen one.
That's definitely a funny example of like someone asking for like, how do I win right now?
yep.
And it's just like the anime music starts playing, they touch your shoulder and they're just like, press up air right here every time and you'll always win.
And even like the someone asked earlier in the chat, like, "Oh, I'm trying to improve on playing faster, but it's not working out." Right? Like that was a good question. That was a very like direct thing where it's just like, "Oh, I'm trying to improve on like this core aspect, but like I want to be faster." Like, what are you trying to improve on this core aspect? Right? Like, say speed, right? Like they want to play faster. So it's like at least there's enough specifics in there to give that person a very good piece of advice, right? So it's like even that wasn't like super specific, but there was enough information. Like I guess generally all I have to say is the more general, the less details your question has, the less details the answer is going to be. Essentially, like it's going to be like a one for one trade for the most part.
Yeah, if like I play somebody and they're after the set, they say the words, any tips, I literally just tell them why I beat them. I don't tell them like how they can improve on it. I don't tell them anything. I just go, you always do this in this scenario, and I really hope that they can take that upon themselves to figure out what to do differently in that scenario.
Yeah.
If they said, hey, how come it feels like every time that I do X in this scenario, you were ready for it? I will give you a completely different answer that is much more detailed. But until you decide that you want to take it upon yourself to put the time in to give a good question, then I'm probably not going to give you a good answer.
Yeah, honestly, I super admire and respect that you even go as far to do that, because even that is a very difficult answer to a very like general question, right?
Mhm.
So honestly, that's a good like routine to go with. Is like, okay, if they ask something that's general, how about I just say like a specific crucial moment from the match because of something that they do often or whatever.
Yeah.
And something I wanted to talk about was a few minutes, like 10 minutes or so ago, Charles, we were talking about VOD review, and Charles said like let's say you're playing with someone and like you couldn't figure out what to do in a certain situation, or you very consistently couldn't kill them, or they very consistently killed you in a certain spot. That's a nice way to go into the VOD review looking for something, right? Like that's a very nice way to use such a great resource. I think maybe some people might think, all right, just played for a little bit, time to go back into like the recording or the VOD and just look at it. I feel like sometimes you might just be staring at it and be like, I don't even know what I'm looking for or what to look at. Especially after being told, like, I just told people like my experiences and how I don't watch VODs. That doesn't mean like you shouldn't, or like other people should or shouldn't. Like, I think what Charles said is very useful. Like, if you're literally confused, you're reflecting after playing the game, that would be a great opportunity to look back into that specific VOD or like someone else playing that specific matchup, because you have something to look out for. That is something for your conscious that you really want. This isn't about like your subconscious with like raw gameplay and muscle memory. Like, this is a very specific scenario that you consciously don't understand and you want to. Yeah, I just really wanted to make sure I touched up on that because I thought that was a really nice point.
Yeah, and even specifically for VOD review, understanding like, so it's like, why am I getting edge guarded, right? And it's like, don't try not to just look at the edge guard, right? Like, so it's like, fuck, I'm getting bared by Joker, like fuck me, right? It's like,
Yeah.
well, that move's broken, so it's like, of course you're gonna get fucking hit by it. So why don't you turn the clock back, right? Why are you off stage with no double jump? Where'd you burn
Yeah.
your double jump? Okay, okay, you burned your double jump here. Did you really have to? Like, was there a reason for that double jump? What was the purpose of that double jump? Or were you reacting because there was like a threat somewhere, right? Oh wait, okay, let's rewind it even more. Why are you off stage? Like, what neutral decision did you make that like got you punished to like put you off stage, right? Like, really breaking down like not only the edge guard, not only where you burn your best resource, and then even going back to like neutral. I think that's like really important, like in terms of just VOD review.
And that like goes back to what we were saying. Like, look at how like much we branched out and like we're looking towards and like looking to improve on just based off looking at the VOD, going into it, looking for something specific, right? If you just go right into it, you might never even give yourself the chance to really dive deep and look at all these aspects of the match if you're not looking for something specific originally, right? Like, at first, like, we were talking about edge guarding, and then all of a sudden we're talking about on stage stuff. Like, we're not even off stage anymore. So I think that's a really, really helpful way to use such a great resource as like a replay or a VOD or a recording or whatever.
and there's so much resources out there, right? So it's like a lot of people might be thinking like, well, I want to start doing VOD review, but I don't understand the game as much. There's so much Smash content out there, and then like all three of us do content, right? Where it's like teaching content. I mean, this is a piece of content right now that we're trying to teach right now, right? So it's like if you're in here, there's definitely like at least there's some kind of effort into like trying to understand the game so it can snowball the value of like your VOD review or like your reflection and stuff like that, which is a perfect segue to I just came out with Bam and Paz with a YouTube channel, Smash University. I'm gonna throw the link up real quick if that's cool with you, Tweek.
Yeah, no, feel free.
And I'm super excited. This is something that I've been trying to work on for a really long time, and it's hard to just do by myself, obviously. So I'm working with Bam and Paz, really amazing people in the Smash community.
Guy's the best.
Oh yeah, see the
Guy's the best.
the best.
Man, show him
I
some
gotta-
love,
I gotta-
support. It's my guy right here. My guy. Love this guy.
So you already know I gotta hit it with the shell. You do. Diversity. But so we just came out on a video with about dashing, which is like obviously a core aspect. So there's that. Boom, you can check that out. But yeah, like there's a lot of content out there for like learning and stuff like that.
So
I
the
think-
channel is Smash University, right?
Yeah, Smash University. Yes.
Check that out, guys.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like
We plugged
even,
a
like,
link in the chat, but if you guys listening to this on YouTube or something, Smash University is going to be uploading a bunch of very specific Smash content rather than just
There.
us talking about general stuff. So
Yeah, and there's a ton of guides, right? Like there's so many guides, and like we talked about perspective earlier, right? Like there's so many content out there that's like a lot of people's perspective. Is there like a super right or a super wrong answer? No, it's like it's a fighting game, right? Like there's a bunch of like diverse RPS situations going on, so it's like of course not. Oh, yo,
What's
Dragon
happening?
coming through. What the
stop
flex?
this.
Calm down.
Cool, Dragon. Thank you for the 10 gifted subs. Also, everyone, thank you for the subs and stuff. I usually don't acknowledge it as much because people are usually talking and I don't want to interrupt them. But thank you. Holy shit, thank you for the 10 gifted, and thank you everyone for the support. But yes, I think something that could really help, like let's say like someone watches this podcast today and then they look for like some sort of character guide for the character they play. I think it might be very helpful based on what we talked about, right? Because if someone goes into like a character guide, they might view things as right and wrong, right? Like I shouldn't do this, I should do this. I think having like here would be a nice process for me if I was doing it. I like, you play the game, you pick the character because you want to play them, you do what's comfortable, what makes sense to you, you learn a bunch of stuff subconsciously, and then in your spare time, like during like your recollecting phase, right, where you're like trying to think about what to improve on, you look at the guide, you're like, okay, here's a really great resource, here's a bunch of information. Instead of viewing it as like this is what you do, it's more so like another perspective, some more information, because I think forcing yourself to do what you think is right and wrong will only bring problems in the future. And if they don't, like immediately, and it's not very apparent, when it does, it's going to be even scarier than ever, because you're going to be like, oh, what the heck, like those last few months, like what's going on, like I feel like something's wrong now, like, you know what I mean?
Dude, imagine how your Diddy would look if you stuck to how Diddy should have been played and you were just running around banana in hand shielding the whole time. Like that's what most Diddy guys probably would have said 6 months ago, 10 months ago. Like, yo, he's a very defensive character, hold shield, banana, haha, punish. Like, now you're out here, Z-drop bananas, like, core to the gameplay, doing banana down air, all these, like, crazy combos for 80%. Like, you can't be taught that through a guide. That's just something you learn through experience. Like,
Don't be afraid to change the meta.
And that's
Like,
the other thing too, like there will be stuff in the guide that say like look at this optimal combo, right? But there's so many different situations where I think like let's, if we're talking about my Diddy specifically, sometimes I'll do like a crazy 70% combo, right? And sometimes it'll be the most basic bread and butter, and like you know, this comes from like raw experience from risk reward and positioning and matchups and the stages. So like once again, maybe I could have done the same combo in the next scenario that I did like last game, but I don't this time. You know, that is coming from raw experience, comfort, and it's not me viewing something as right or wrong, and you have to do the same thing in this scenario every time. You know what I mean? So once again, we're talking about like some sort of balance here, like we've been talking about throughout the podcast. Sorry,
Yeah,
what were you
that
saying?
kind of scenario will always be like a thing in tournament too, right? Like, oh shit, I'm super nervous. Like, you know what? Hit it with the clean 40%. Like, pull my bandana, I'm good. Like, you know, it's like it depends on like even like your emotional state too. And again, that will come through tournament experience and stuff like that, where it's like, oh shit, I'm super nervous. Okay, well, do my standard like crazy fucking insane 80%. Oh wait, I botched it and I got reversaled. Oh my god, I'm off stage. Wait a minute, and I'm dead. Like, you know what I mean? Like that happens. That like actually happens. So it's like and that kind of goes back to like understanding yourself and know how you perform with certain emotions in line and stuff like that.
And I think like let's say you play a specific character and you're looking for like a top player stream or like content, and you see them like get put in the situation where they could do X thing and they do something else, and then you're like, wait, why didn't he do the thing that everyone says is so amazing and crazy and broken? And I think that's where a lot of people come in and they say like, typing in the Twitch chat like, why didn't you do this? Like, you would have done more damage. Or I think that's where they're looking at the game as like black and white and like right and wrong, and it's always fine to ask questions, but looking back on like why they're probably asking this question is because they saw the guide or they did a combo themselves and they're like, okay, doing this every time, this is my answer.
Yeah, it's like being comfortable is so important. And like this even comes from like a coaching / teaching perspective on counterpick stages. You know, Smash is a very unique game in a sense of like you can change the stage. Most traditional fighters, it's like a flat stage with like a different background for the most part, right? So, but Smash, it's like there's so many times where I'm like, well, on paper, which is kind of not on paper, but it's like commonly most people will take, you know, counterpick this character here. Like commonly, Yoshi will go to Yoshi's story if it's available. So you would ban Yoshi's story. Now, if someone fights a Mario on Yoshi's story, do they automatically lose? Is it black and white? No. It's just you got to understand the reason behind it.
Yo,
and like
low key,
what Mario gets.
I am always banning that stage against Mario. That is.
Yo,
Right.
Low key, that shit's black and white, bro.
That shit's
Nah.
that joint is a free win.
Low key, like that. I know we said there's no right and wrong, chat, but if you're playing against Mario on Yoshi's story,
You're crazy.
you lost.
You are fucking crazy. But yeah, I mean, so something like that, right? There's like a very clear-cut value of like, is there any character that gets more from Mario, like at a top level, than Mario? Like, no. So that's why it's kind of like black and white, unless there's like some undiscovered.
I was
shit,
mostly
like,
joking, but
but no, I mean, it like kind of depends on the balance, right? Like to what we know of the game right now, you're crazy if you take Mario. If you
Yeah,
if
exactly.
you don't ban Mario, right? But I mean, who knows? Like this game is so young. This game is so like the meta is so underdeveloped. There's so much shit. Like, you know, 6 months ago, people thought Diddy was trash or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's like there's so many different players that can pick up a character, or like something can get found out. Like instant double jump got found out not too long ago, and like people are experimenting with that, right? So it's like you never know, right? Maybe there's some instant double jump combo that like Falcon or something can do to Mario, and it's just like, yeah, Falcon's down to play Mario. Like that's the one stage that like Mario might not want to counterpick to, like or that one character he doesn't want to take to Yoshi's or whatever. It just kind of like depends on where the meta goes and like what we figure out about the game.
and that's the thing. Like, I think there's a very clear difference between. One second. There's a very clear difference between what you've been told and your own experience, right? Like, when I like going into a turn, like I actually have a very specific scenario with a experience with Mario on Yoshi's story. I was at a tournament and I had obviously heard how amazing Mario is on Yoshi's Story, right? And so obviously I wouldn't want to do that. And Yoshi's Story is a very crazy stage. A lot of characters have a lot of specific setups, lots of early kills. Like it's a counter pick stage for a reason. And it was like game one. It was like Olimar versus Pokemon Trainer. I think this is like when I was playing Pokemon Trainer. I win. Obviously, I didn't know they played Mario, but they go Mario on Yoshi's Story, and I lose, and I'm like, okay, like I've experienced it myself now. I've already heard it, but now that I've experienced it, I have like a specific reason why I'm not going to do that in the future, right?
He hit me at 20 and I died.
Yeah.
Wow. Wowie wow wow.
Like everyone knows like why people usually don't do it, but I think experiencing things on your own can really be helpful though, because maybe you learn something specific that you wouldn't have learned if you never fought Mario and Yoshi's Story. You know what I mean? Basically what I'm trying to say is it's another case of not viewing things as too black and white. Like, but yeah.
That's what makes Smash so cool too, right? Like, it's like, oh, that guy has a Pocket Mario. Like, like you could even be thinking like not even a Mario main, right? But like, oh snap, this dude has a Pocket Mario though. Like, I'm gonna ban Yoshi's. Like, it's like the cool like depth part about Smash, in my opinion. I think it makes it really cool.
Bro, it's Mars. Bro,
What's up, Mars?
You played Schroeder at Glitch. You went Greninja game 1. Game 2, saw Yoshi's. I was like, oh no.
Dude,
I remember I saw
so
that
funny because I went into it.
Yeah,
I went into it knowing that was a possibility, and for some reason I always forget with the character switch into the stage pick. If I'm playing a Mario on the first game,
yeah,
I'm very clearly gonna ban Yoshi's Story. But like low key, I'll forget, especially because usually like I'm always the one switching characters. Sometimes you forget that other people can do it too.
Yeah, like remembering everyone's Pocket Mario and stuff like that. That's when it gets hard, man. That's when it gets really hard.
Yeah,
you gotta have that knowledge.
Yeah, especially like if it's like a pools match and like it's not like you're not like studying a specific top player that you always see. Like you don't know if they're about to pull out the Mario or Roy on Yoshi's Story. Like that's terrifying. And that just, you just need more experience. You learn about more players because you might play this person again. Or maybe you just don't even want to take the risk of playing on such a volatile counter pick, right? So I'm going to ban Yoshi's Story very often just to avoid the possibility of Mario killing me off of every hit, right?
There's also the tech, and this is like a very common thing. You'll play against somebody and you'll be like, they're not gonna pick Lilat, so you don't even ban it. You just like, they're not picking Lilat.
Everyone hates Lilat.
Everyone hates Lilat, and then you realize, oh snap, I'm playing MVD. Y'all got banned Lilat because
exactly.
Like you just sort of know, like. And
then they have access to like maybe other stages they like because they probably already know you're banning Lilat too.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But low key, I'm still banning Lilat every time.
Banning Lilat. Lila and Yoshi's are gone. Slants need to go. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I don't even hate playing on Yoshi's Story, but the idea of slants.
Mm-hmm.
But Lilat, I'm very uncomfortable on it, and I practice on it every day. And I'm still like not quite adjusted to Lilat compared to other stages.
The stage ugly.
Yeah, even play styles too, right? Like some people like volatile styles, like the high risk, high reward. Like I want small blast zones. Like I want less neutral interactions. Like just people dying faster.
Yeah.
I say this all the time when people ask me like counter pick advice. Like, oh, you're going up against a Japanese player, ban FD and Kalos. Like that. It's like you don't. It depends on the character / player, but like most of the time, like you want to take those stages away. But there's also some players that play really good on those stages. Like Gavin plays very, very well on Kalos, right? So it's like it all just kind of like depends on like are they are they more comfortable than you? Are you like so uncomfortable on other stages? Like, so I've seen people counter pick like bad stages for like the matchup, right? But like that's their comfortable stage. Like, oh, I'm just gonna play Fox on Battlefield because I'm about Battlefield. Like, I know he's really broken on it, but like I am just personally super comfortable on it. So like I'm gonna play Battlefield against Fox, which is like very doable, you know?
Yeah, it's not a lot of auto win stages for characters, but if
Yeah,
there's
Duck
one
Hunt
thing
doesn't
y'all
exist
learn,
anymore.
yeah, if there's one thing y'all learned from this podcast, out of everything we talked about, if you know somebody who plays Mario, ban Yoshi's.
There's the one black and white thing in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Bro, I'm a Mario main, but I promise you, I'm just very neutral based. I'm not gonna kill you at 0, bro. I play neutral.
Stageless is broken for Mario. Like actually.
He's good on Battlefield, Yoshi's, Lilac,
PS2.
PS2, yeah.
No, I think we just said the stageless.
Yeah,
and, like, they're forced
PS2
to
Mario
ban.
is something else.
They're forced to ban Yoshi's already. Like,
Oh my god. Fucking Mario.
it's a new ZSS. He's like the ladder combo character.
Bro, can we please play on Yoshi's? I won't do it. I won't do the thing.
Scouts on her.
Scouts. Imagine Mario Diddles on Yoshi's. Now that's crazy.
Yo, honestly, I might pick up Mario just in case.
The counterpick there, and you're like, okay, I'll go Mario.
And I'm
See,
only
see,
gonna
that's like
play
the
the
super big brain stuff. Like you pick up Mario and you have a pocket Mario. So if someone counterpicks you to Yoshi's after you leave it open, and you're like, ooh, thank you, buddy. Like
The state of
I'm
the
going
game if
Mario.
everyone had this mindset.
Everyone just plays Mario. Everyone has a pocket Mario.
They hear you say, like, pronounce Yoshi's, like, at the start of the sentence. Okay, let's go. Mario. I'm going Mario.
That's
Oh,
how
you're
I,
going Mario too? Okay, I'm going Mario.
I counterpick people in Smash 4 like that because Dreamland and Battlefield were legal. So like they would like begin stating the stage, and I would already like say it before they'll be like Dream, and I'll be like Battlefield. And then I just like pick it. I was like, no matter what you pick, I get to play on a triplet, no matter what. It's like it's just funny.
Like, the more experience you have, the more routine it gets. Especially when the stage list isn't perfect. I'll say
hasn't solidified yet.
I'll say it nicely. The rule set usually isn't perfect.
That shit ass.
Dude, fuck. I hate this game.
I just want 7 minutes to at least be a standard. Just like, can we just standardize the timer? I just want to standardize like one step at a time. I know the asking to standardize the stage list is a bit much. There's a lot of options to go with there. Can we at least just settle with like a set time, man? Just not 8 minutes, please. at least 7 minutes.
Every
just
time I see 8 minutes, I just check out of that game, and I'm just thinking about like how after the game I'm telling them to change it. Like I'm not even like focused on I can't do it.
We must change the time.
Like, please, no. I have to help this person. They think they're playing on 8 minutes. I love how we're talking about like, you know, like nothing is black and white, and then we're like, yo, never doing 8 minutes. Like that is wrong.
So funny. But yeah, I'm trying to think of other like talking topics for improvement. I feel like we covered almost everything.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people want to know like specifically like how to practice. Some people want to know like how to practice when you don't really have like a practice partner, or you only have computers to play, or you don't have internet or something like that. That
you got to have some kind of resource, man.
yeah, you have to have something like I want to be like, no, you can figure it out all on your own, but like experience is one part of practice that you need. It's a huge factor.
Yeah.
And because there's so many different ways that people play the game, and like if you don't get the experience, you'll plateau. So
okay, Pink, answer this question. All right, I want to get really good at Smash, but I don't have a Switch, I don't have a GameCube controller, I don't have internet, and I don't have any friends that will play any game with me. Go.
How do you know Smash exists?
You got any other, you got any other hobbies?
How do you even know what? How do you even know what
Give me
Smash
an
is?
Answer no. I demand an in-depth answer on how to become the best player in the game with that scenario.
I'm questioning if you even know what Smash is.
Please.
If you're a real person, you exist. Yeah, nah.
I think the most interesting.
Go next.
Go next.
I think the most interesting thing about like talking about practice and improvement is a lot of people, like for me, like I just want to get the point across through like my experiences and what I've enjoyed and what has helped me, and like trying to like stress to someone that like, you know, molding things for your comfort and experiences.
Right.
I think everyone has something they can bring to the table when talking about this topic, and that's why it's so interesting, especially in a world where a lot of people try to view it as so cut and dry. So I think that's definitely the most interesting thing to me about talking about it.
Yeah, and like a lot of people are like, I have to play someone better to improve. I'm like, that's not a thing.
That was always like such a weird thing that it like came up so often for me, because
comes up all the time.
that thought hasn't crossed my head one time in my entire life. And I'm not saying that because it's like, oh, look at me, like I'm so amazing at the game. I'm just saying like I've never considered that when I'm practicing, and like I consider so much stuff when it comes to like playing the game and trying to improve. And I think once again it comes to the thing where we're talking about like factors you can control, right? Like I can't just control who I play with all the time. I can try to an extent, but I can't control their skill level at every waking moment. So like, why try to focus on that when I can focus on something I can control, which is me, my character, and like what I can do to learn and improve. So I've never considered my opponent's skill level once, ever. Never.
Let's break this down. I got the PGR pulled up. I'm looking at the top 10 players. Now, all of these players do not regularly practice with each other in terms of practice, right? Some of them live like pretty close to each other, Mars and Light, right? But they're like literally in different states, to my understanding. So they don't even really, like, even before COVID and stuff, they would kind of see each other at some regionals, and those ones would get really good viewership because of that. But for the most part, a lot of these players, like in the top 10 rankings in the world, would literally kind of just like go to their locals, and this is like the epitome of being able to get value from your practice when you're playing players that are not as good as you, not as consistent as you in tournament. Does that mean that you're not going to get good practice from them? Absolutely not. And I think one of the biggest, like when you get to this like level of play, like this PGR level of play, that's really where like being able to get valuable practice from players that aren't as consistent as you in tournament really comes into play, right? Where you can like really kind of, you know, practice different things, different scenarios, and get the most value out of it. Because like it's not like the PGR is like this inner circle of players that don't want to play anyone else, and like
they know all
we're
the
just here to
secrets.
get better, right? I'm trying to think in terms of like Smash Brothers like history throughout games. The last time anything was super concentrated was like Brawl, right? Where it was like Tri-State. There was like pretty much like the top 5 players in the world all lived in Tri-State or something like that. That was like, and like even then, I don't even know how much they practice with each other. But like in terms of like concentrated top talent, only like I wouldn't even say only playing with each other, but like playing with each other consistently. That's like the last time that happened, to my knowledge. So
Yeah,
it's like
scene was much smaller back then. Like that
Mhm.
wasn't even. There were like giant tournaments for like 210 people. Like
yeah, and that was like insane.
yeah.
So yes, the excuse that you don't play with good enough players, that's why you're not improving. Yeah, just throw it out the window. That's not really the reason.
I
Or
understand
most
it.
of the time it's not.
I understand the thought process.
Yeah.
Oh, completely.
But
Yeah.
but like, and sure, if you have that option in the moment, why not take it, right? But I think once again, looking at it as like a requirement is like where it's like, okay, calm down.
Yeah, because like generally when you're going into practice, like, or at least me personally, let me get that
Yeah.
out. Not I don't know
Talking
about
about practice?
yeah. When I'm going into practice, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm very comfortable doing these specific things. Um, I am uncomfortable doing this thing currently. I'm gonna play the game normally. That's the thing that a lot of people they want to like hyper focus on forcing the situation that they're bad at to happen. I'm going to play the game normally. When the situation arises, I'm going to hyper focus on trying to do better at that situation or trying to figure out what I could be doing in that situation. And that's the entire practice session. Like, it's not like I'm practicing like 50 different things at once. I'm personally
Yes.
not good at practicing 50 different things at once. Uh, but for that day, for those hours, this is what I'm working on. Go into it the next day, I work on it again, and if I feel like I've gotten better at it, cool. I work on it again until I feel like I have it down completely. Once I have it down completely, I'll just work on something else, and I just repeat that cycle over and over again until I feel more complete. And then it's just about being more consistent and like being disciplined in my mind. And after a while, it's outside of game stuff. The game is, I don't know, the game's limited. Like I know we talk about how like crazy Smash is, and there are a ton of variables, but at the end of the day, it's still like data and numbers and stuff. So like
Yeah.
I always see it as limited, and the variables that usually affect me are outside of the game rather than in the game. As long as I know what I should be doing. And the one thing I will say is that when you play against better players, there are a few situations that arise that you aren't comfortable with, that are new to you because they're better. You haven't seen them before, and that is one thing that you can't get without playing the better players. But for the most part, improving from like a low level to almost a top player, you can do it by yourself. And even you might, depending on what you identify as a top player, like me, anything outside of like top 15, top 20, somewhere around there, it doesn't feel like a top player. But that's also because I've been at the top before. So
Yeah, it's all perspective, but like having goals, that's so important. I
yep.
feel like and even I feel like so much people spread themselves thin. Like I can tell you the last thing I was working on, like when I like just playing, right? Like I felt like there's a lot of situations when I'm cornered that I swing out of the corner because I play like fox or wolf, and that's a very good option, but I do it too much and I get punished really hard for it. I die for it, I take a lot of damage, right? So it's like um going into like the last like grind session I had, I was like, I need to walk and shimmy my way out of the corner. I need to like slowly go out. Like unless my opponent is like breathing down my throat, like I have space, and if they're dashing back, I need to like creep my way back in, right? Like, and that's like that. You see how like pinpoint and specific that is. Obviously, it's hard to find what those specific things are. You will be able to do that with more game knowledge, right? And like it'll become like more obvious to you. But even just like when you find them, I feel like some players they get so like hyped up when they find out what they need to work on, right? And it's like, oh dang, I need to like they have this huge list of stuff they need to work on. They're like, yeah, all that stuff, let's go, boom, and then they just and your brain's so like cluttered at that point, right? Like just take it one thing at a time. Even if you break down your practice into like hour segments, right? Like, all right. I mean, obviously, you don't need to do this, but this is like an example where it's like I want to work on multiple things, and I'm going to play for 3 hours. Okay, first hour, I'm going to work on the first thing. Second hour, work on the second thing. Third hour, work on the third thing. Oh, you're trying to get termy. But yeah, it's like being able to like break it down and spread it out is really important, and just like going into practice with goals. Because if you don't go into practice with goals, I'll tell you what your goal is going to be. It's going to be to win the match or game. So, because
What the
that's
heck?
just like
Look
human
at
ego,
both.
right? So, yeah, like if you're going in with like improvement goals, then your practice feels more like practice. So yeah, I think I just wanted to like touch up more on what Pink said because it's so important on improving specifically.
I could not. Oh my god.
Oh snap! He's lurking. Why are you barking, Termy?
I think I think like let's say I play for like a few hours and then like I look back and recollect and I'm like there's so many things I'm thinking I could have done and it can be a bit overwhelming. I just try to like keep it in the back of my head for when it appears again next time. It's way easier said than done because there's so much stuff. Like even I can get overwhelmed if I'm working on so much stuff in a specific session, but for a lot of this stuff, the number one thing is just at least acknowledging at some point, whether it's in and out of the game, like the possibilities, right? Because it'll all naturally come regardless of you forcing yourself to practice it or not, I think, just from pure experience.